USA men are led by the 1982 NCAA champion, Peter Vidmar, and the women by 16-year-old Julianne McNamara and 15-year-old Tracy Talavera. All here on ABC Sports. Century Tower stands proud in the middle of the beautiful campus at the University of Florida, the oldest of Florida's institutions for higher learning. School is in session. Daily schedules covering a wide variety of courses and extracurricular activities continue year-round for over 30,000 students here at the University of Florida. The beautiful weather allows one to take advantage of the vast athletic facilities the campus has to offer, such as racquetball. But today, the activity moves indoors to the O'Connell Center, a multifaceted complex that houses a number of sports. This afternoon, the United States takes on the USSR in gymnastics, and a big crowd is on hand for what should be a great competition between these two teams. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jack Whitaker, and welcome to another in our series of the USA versus the world in Olympic sports. Today, another look at our ever-improving gymnastic team as they do battle against the Russians who dominated the 1980 Olympics and the 1981 World Championships. Kathy Rigby will be along a little later for the women's competition. Gordon Maddox is here for the men's. And Gordy, the Russians seem to turn out world-class gymnasts about as easily as we turn out automobiles on an assembly line.
Jack, it looks that way to me, too. In fact, I think the Soviet officials are boasting just a little bit about the tremendous depth of the Soviet national men's team. Not a one of the gymnasts that they've sent to this competition has any kind of international reputation. And yet I think you're going to be amazed with the difficulty in which they put their exercises together. And I think there's a good reason for this. When you watch this gymnasts, look at their body type. I happen to think that they have the perfect body type for gymnastics. They're short, they're lean, and they're mean. And speaking of being short, I think the Americans are just a tad short-handed. Bart Connor is back in Norman, Oklahoma, recovering from surgery on his elbow, had some chips removed. Jimmy Hartung just led his Nebraska Cornhuskers to their 4th National Collegiate Gymnastics Championship. During the competition, he tweaked his back a little, and he's home resting. But the man who won the all-around in that competition, Peter Vidmar from UCLA, is here. And I believe that Peter and his American teammates are ready to give the Russians a real run for their money.
The first rotation for the men is the floor exercise. There are 6 competitors from each country, with the 5 highest scores for each team counting toward the team total. Up now is one of the United States' premier gymnasts, a junior at UCLA, certainly one of America's hopefuls in the 1984 Olympics, Peter Vidmar.
He's our current NCAA all-around champion, unseeded Jimmy Hartung from Nebraska for that crown. He won the USGF National Championships early in the year, so he's proving that he really is probably the most consistent all-around man on the American team. Peter Vidmar has difficulty in this event, however. You might recall a few weeks ago, he fell out of bounds on his mount, a full-in double back against the Chinese. Peter is hitting today. Very difficult move, Jack, as you pointed out so many times. Holding yourself up while on your fingertips and then pulling your feet through is not an easy task. It requires flexibility, strength, and maybe a little luck. Watch this now, a half twisting step out. Do a full twisting dive roll. Peter doesn't have an extraordinarily difficult routine. His job here is to hit it with a minimum of problems. Now he's just about reached the minimum time limit, which is 50 seconds. If you hear a little bell in the background, that will mean he has made it. There's the bell. He has 20 seconds now in which to do his dismount. Peter's had a commendable exercise up to this point. He'll try to perform a nice double back somersault. Get out of it cleanly. Oh, nice exercise, Jack.
Peter Vidmar, a member of the national team since 1979. A strong performance here by Peter Vidmar in the floor exercise. Let's take a look in slow motion at the dismount, Gordon.
Well, now, Peter is going to have to generate some speed. Watch his round off. Takes his round off here, goes into the back handspring very quickly, good momentum, and perfect leg form as he makes a terrific landing.
Peter Vidmar and a 9.85 as the United States is off to a tremendous start. Back with more of the floor exercise in a moment. Scott Johnson, Colorado Springs, and the University of Nebraska.
He'll be mounting with a full-in double back. He's a strong tumbler. Okay, Scott, don't go out of bounds now, please. No flags, apparently no deduction. Scott, of course, a member of that very powerful University of Nebraska national championship team. Good all-around gymnast, terrific ringman, and normally extraordinarily strong ringmen aren't so good on the floor here, but Scott's the exception to that. Okay, getting set up now for a front handspring, a full twisting dive roll. And then he'll be doing another double back somersault for his dismount. There you've heard the bell signifying that he's met the minimum time. Now Scott Johnson again trying his third double back somersault, the dismounting double back. Oh, great exercise.
Scott Johnson.
And Mr. Whitaker, the Americans are cooking.
And the applause being led here by the men's coach, A.B. Grossfeld. A fine performance by Scott Johnson. They anticipate a good score to keep the momentum going that has been established early in this meet by the United States men's team. And there it is, a 9.75 for Scott Johnson. A very good score indeed. Yes, sir, let's go. As we await now the floor exercise of Sergei Khizhnyakov. At 23 years old, a veteran. He's won gold medals in the floor exercise at the World University Games in Mexico City, and he was a national champion in it in 1977.
And watch this on a piked double back somersault. Extreme height. Sergei Khizhnyakov is one of the strongest tumblers ever. And I once on another show when he was here for the American Cup a couple of years ago, referred to him as almost Mikhail Berezhnikov look-alike. Berezhnikov, of course, being the great ballet dancer. Khizhnyakov is so stylish in his work. Watch the height now that he gets on this Arabia dive roll. Just almost goes into orbit. And this audience certainly appreciates his work. Now here comes a Thomas Flare. Probably the most universal move in gymnastics in the world now. Now watch this. Nice wide arm handstand. Now we've heard the bell, so Khizhnyakov now has about 15 seconds left in which to do his tucked double back somersault dismount. Oh, and Sergei is really hitting, Jack.
Sergei Khizhnyakov from Rostov in the Soviet Union, and a very strong performance here in the floor exercise. He's one of their best all-around performers. And let's take a look in slow motion now at his mount.
And boy, does he get some lift in this thing, Jack. Watch this now. Round off back handspring first, and then watch him punch the floor, take it up in the air. Very good leg form. Oh, that's just dynamite.
Dynamite is right, Gordon. Look at this score, a 9.85 for Khizhnyakov. But despite that strong performance, after the first rotation, the United States takes a slight lead. 48.4, the USSR 48.05. His lead in the all-around competition with this 9.8 performance on the pommel horse. The 20-year-old UCLA junior showed why he is the 1982 NCAA champion in the all-around, as well as in the pommel horse. Vidmar's performance helped to increase the United States lead in the overall competition. USA 96.75, USSR 96.1. Now for the United States, we have Mitch Gaylord on the rings.
And Jack, he won't disappoint you here. He's going to show you some really heavy-duty stuff. He'll start off with a locked arm back kip into a L cross, or into some form of cross. There it is, just a regular cross. Now those are very long levers. He has long arms, makes the cross much more difficult for him than it would, say, one of the top Soviet kids. Here comes a whippet now. Call it a honma or whippet, depending on which country you learned your gymnastics in. Now another strength move is coming up shortly. A planche. No, a triple flyaway. All right, left the planche out. Nice triple flyaway.
There is Mitch Gaylord, two-time All-American at UCLA, getting the congratulations from his teammates and a hearty reception here from the crowd. Gordon?
Well, now let's watch In order to get that thing turned around 3 times, he's got to hang on and get a little bit higher and then really shorten his radius, and that's just about as well as that can be done.
Mitch Gaylord, and that performance is worth a 9.8, and the Americans keep on the offensive. And next on the rings is Peter Vidmar. And coming into this competition, Peter is the leader in the all-around.
Remember, Jack, a couple of weeks ago when we covered the USA versus China, what a sensational exercise he turned in the rings? Well, what an opportune time to do the same thing again. He could help his teammates immeasurably at this point. Okay, now settle down a little bit. Show you a couple of whippets in a row now, right after this handstand. Whippet, roll, whippet, yep.
Cross.
And a nice L cross. Now he still has to press to a handstand, and he should be pulling his hollow back press right here. And at that point, he'll bail out for a dismount, a pike half-in, half-out double. Oh, boy. All right, Peter.
Peter Vidmar, the 1982 NCAA champion, on the rings. Getting congratulations from his teammates. And the score will be 9-7-5 for Peter Vidmar. And he should be happy with that performance. Next for the Russian team, a young man they're counting on. This is Sergei Gribkov. He's 17 years old.
And this is a real example of weight to strength ratio. He looks out and out skinny, but watch this. He'll do a kip to a cross, hold the cross. Now he should pull out of it. Come on, Sergei. Push down, baby. Yeah. That's easier for skinny kids, Jack. Giant swing. Now a giant swing probably in the other direction. Another handstand. All right, here comes a layout double flyaway.
Oh, right on it. Sergei Gribkov in a fine performance on the rings. And let's take a look in slow motion.
And it's very difficult to turn this layout double around. The body is so long, and Gribkov really does a whale of a job.
Doesn't he just? And it's a 9-8-5 for the Russian. A very strong performance. And Gribkov has brought the USSR closer in the team competition. USA 145.3, USSR 144.95. 19-year-old Tim Daggett of Springfield, Massachusetts, who's Peter Vidmar's roommate at UCLA, was the outstanding performer in the vault competition, scoring a 9.8 and helping the United States to retain their lead in the overall competition. In the parallel bars, Peter Vidmar was again the outstanding performer. His combination of strength and style and an almost flawless performance helped him to score a 9.9 as the United States continues to hold on to its slim lead. USA 242.6, the USSR 242.40. We move on now to the high bar competition, the apparatus on which the United States has made vast improvements. Kurt Thomas helped set the style for the United States men. Now let's remember back to his gold medal performance in the 1979 World Championships with Jim McKay and Gordon Maddox.
Event, last man in the competition. He must get a 9-9 to win the gold medal.
And Jim, it has been their day, the Americans' day, all day. They'll never get a better crowd than this. They'll never get better conditions. Here comes a Dolchev now by Thomas. All right, Kurt. Now let's hope he doesn't lose his concentration after getting past the tough part of his routine. This is a German giant done only as Kurt Thomas can do it. Yeah, double German.
9-8-5 will not tie him. It's 9-9 to win.
Now he's got to do his double, full twisting double flyaway. Super routine.
What a beautiful soft landing.
And Kurt Thomas received a 9.9 for that performance and the gold medal. And now on the bar, we await the performance of the Soviet Union's Radik Gabatov, 18 years old.
And watch this. He has a whole series of one-arm giants. He has more one-arm giants than I've ever seen. All right, there's the first set. 2 one-arm giants with an immediate Delchev. One-arm giant into a flyaway half-turn recatch. Incredible. Now he'll do a pivot. A full twisting one-arm giant, that time on his other arm. Now the next time you see him in one arm, be prepared. He'll do a flyaway, a double flyaway right out of the one arm. Should be right in here. One arm into a double flyaway. Phenomenal.
Radik Gabatov, 18 years old, a dramatic performance on the high bar. This young man, whom the Russians are counting on very heavily for 1984, getting the congratulations of his teammates. Let's watch it in slow motion.
We'll be taking a look at the Delchev out of a one-arm giant swing. Here it comes now. It's a flyaway half-turn recatch out of the one-arm giant. Now, I have never seen that one before.
And 9.85 for Radik Gabatov. A fine performance for this young man. One of the judges here is Nikolai Andrianov, who was a 3-time Olympian for the Soviet Union. Now for the United States, 20-year-old junior from the University of Nebraska, Phil Cahoy.
He'll start with a baby Stalder shoot. Comes out of the baby Stalder into a straddle vault. Now gets set up. Stoop through into an inverted. Now he's dislocated, and you'll see now a flyaway recatch. Reverse flyaway recatch. Another Stalder up into a pivot. And after this Stalder, he gets set up for his flyaway, which is a full-in double flyaway, a full twister on the first summy. And what a fantastic landing.
Boy, didn't he put it down neatly. Phil Cahoy. And this competition is heating up. A marvelous performance here by Phil Cahoy. 6 times an All-American. Let's look at it.
Well, here comes the flyaway again. Now watch, he'll do a full twister in the first somersault and then take one more somersault out of it, and just an incredible landing. Perfect, Phil.
Phil Cahoy gets a 9.9. Marvelous marks. And a standing ovation here as Phil Cahoy takes his bows. What a close competition we have. We'll be back with more of the high bar in a moment. Here between the United States and the USSR. This is Sergei Gribkov, tied for 2nd place with Mitch Gaylord in the men's all-around competition.
Gets a fast start, cast over the top now. Right into giant swing into a Tkachov, which is a reverse direction move. Now watch this, he'll vault backwards over the bar. Really get some extension out of it, too. There's his one-arm reverse giant. Not many of those around. He's got to come into Eagle Giants now. There's his shoot. Eagle Giants. Pivot out. Now look out. Here comes a triple flyaway. 1, 2, 3, and he nailed it.
17-year-old Sergei Gribkov. A brilliant young junior gymnast, now one of the young lions the Russians are bringing along. Let's watch it again, Gordon.
Well, this is the triple, and watch him grab his knees and try to pull him in as tight as possible to make his spinning radius very small. Oh, that's an outstanding triple flyaway.
And Sergei Gribkov gets a 9.85 for that performance. Now Peter Vidmar leading in the all-around coming in here, but he'll need a 9.5 to beat out Sergei Gribkov for the honors.
Well, I've said it before, he scares me to death because in the warm-ups he never catches his release moves. And that's one of them, okay. But in competition, he rarely misses them. But I'll tell you, you never know until he goes for it. Okay.
Oh, Peter! Oh, isn't that a shame?
Well, now he has about 30 seconds. He can chalk up, repair his hand grip if necessary, and then he has to remount, and there's an arbitrary 5/10 of a point deduction. So Peter is in serious trouble now in the all-around, and of course it could hurt his team. He has to begin his exercise where he fell. Takes a pivot over the top. Stalder. Now he'll be getting set up shortly for his dismount. A half in, half out, hiked double flyaway. And what a waste, Jack, after such a fine exercise to have that big deduction in the center.
Absolutely, Gordon, and we see that most times, don't we? One big mistake like that ruins what might have been almost a perfect performance. Peter Vidmar, very disappointed, of course. Let's take a look at his trouble.
Let's try to pick up where he made his mistake. Now, he taps a little bit early right there, which takes him out early, throws him too far away from the bar. And, Peter, you just don't have long enough arms.
And as you said, Gordon, that will cost him dearly, 9.35, and that eliminates him from any chance of winning the all-around. It will hurt the team, too, but remember, they throw out the lowest score. Here is 21-year-old Mitch Gaylord from the Los Angeles area. He needs a 9.9 to win the all-around competition over Sergei Gribkov. And, of course, a high score for the United States to gain a victory. Mitch Gaylord.
Well, Jack, I've said it before. He's crazy on the high bar, but it's a beautiful form of craziness. Boy, the stuff he does here is just fabulous. Stalder shoots now. There's his release. Well done. There's his Gaylord semi over the top. Comes in a little bit dead. Has a free hip circle. Now look out for a triple flyaway. Oh, Mitch Gaylord. All right. Way to hang in there.
All right. This is going to be very close. As Mitch Gaylord really puts it on in the high bar. Let's take a look in slow motion at that move, Gordon. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, that move is now called a Gaylord flip. He takes a tap right here. Nice tap. Now watch. He'll lift his hips hard, take a somersault over the top of the bar, and re-catch. And I'm telling you, that's some kind of scary move.
And that is worth a 9.9 for Mitch Gaylord. A tremendous performance in the clutch. And with it, Mitch wins the all-around competition, which also helps the United States, ladies and gentlemen, in a stunning upset over the Russian men's team. Final score, the USA 291.85, the USSR 291.05. A tremendous competition, and the women's still to come. Of the University of Florida, which hosts a variety of sports. Today, gymnastics is the feature as the USA gymnasts take on the USSR. We're ready now for the women's competition, and our expert analyst is Kathy Rigby. And as you know, Kathy, the men have just scored a great victory over the Russians. Can the women do the same?
Well, I know the American women would like nothing better than to beat the Russians in this competition and have another upset like the men's competition. We have sent our very best gymnasts. Nerves are tight there for both teams, but we've sent our best. Leading the pack is Tracy Talavera and Julianne McNamara. The Russians are not taking this lightly either. They've sent the current world champion, Olga Bicherova, and 5 other gymnasts that could be her clone. It should be tight if both teams hit, so we'll just have to see.
As you can see, the USSR women took the early lead in the team competition, 48.45 to 48.05, with the help of a dynamic performance on vault by the petite Valentina Shkoda. She's 14 years old from Moscow. She scored a 9.8 on this very fine effort. And now we move on to the uneven bars. And for the United States, from Reading, Pennsylvania, 16-year-old Michelle Goodwin.
Michelle has one of the most difficult mounts in the competition. It's called an Arabian. She does a round off onto the board where she hits backwards, goes up in the air, makes a half twist in a flipping position, and catches that high bar. Extremely difficult. Timing is critical. Beautifully done. Almost over-rotates it there. There's a hex with a half. Barely catches that high bar, but she does it perfectly. Right to her fingertips. Into a handstand, good position, full twist stomach whip. Somi to the high bar. One difficult move after the next. Flip to the high bar. Get ready for a dismount now. Right to the handstand. Soul circle on. Front with a half. Beautiful routine.
Michelle Goodwin. And the crowd loves it. And so do her teammates. And no wonder, 9.85. Now for the Soviet Union on the uneven bars, this is Olga Mostepanova, listed as 14 years of age from Moscow.
And Jack, one of the great things about the Soviet team is their form. It's just the execution of each move is so technically perfect. Doing giants now. Those legs very rarely separate. Back, reverse hecht over the bar. Beautifully done. Very much in control. There's a Delchev. Right into a clear hip there on the low bar. Double leg shoot through. Beautifully done so far. Each move is stretched completely. Getting ready for a dismount now. Way over the top bar. Free hip front with a half twist. Very nicely done.
Olga Mostepanova. A fine performance on the uneven bars. Gets congratulations here from her coach. Let's take a look at the dismount.
On this clear hip, right here, she'll shoot those legs way up to the ceiling. Hips ride way over the top bar. Makes the half twist. Very well done.
Very well done indeed. A 9.85 for Olga Mostepanova. And this competition is very close. We'll be back with more on the uneven bars in just a moment. Talavera, one of the United States' leading women gymnasts, getting ready for the uneven bars. Let's take a moment and meet this very interesting and talented 15-year-old athlete from Walnut Creek, California. Swirling at the base of the Three Sister Mountains in northwestern Oregon is the Mackenzie River. At this time of year, its waters are high as it carries winter's runoff. It's still too cold to go swimming, but it's laden with trout, and that's what attracts Tracy to her favorite fishing hole.
Well, in my spare time, I like to fish, and when I'm standing out there, I'm either thinking, I wish the fish would hurry up and bite, or I usually think about how cold it is, and I think, well, I can stand it for about 15 more minutes, and usually I end up standing out there for about 3 hours.
Tracy usually fishes with her coach, Dick Mulvihill, who also coaches Julianne McNamara and who understands the intensity of these girls.
The intensity that these girls have is a plus. The water may be cold, the sun might be gone, the rain might be hard, and the thing about this type of recreation and its application is the intensity. In other words, they're intense in their practice, they're intense in their competition, but they can also be intense in their relaxation, like watching the tip of a pole all day for it to wiggle. So intensity, it becomes old hat.
Even at her home gym, Tracy is surrounded by intensity and competition from her teammate Julianne. But both girls agree it's a friendly competition.
A lot of people try to make a rivalry between me and Tracy, but really gymnastics is just an individual sport, and you just try to do the best you can, and when someone else succeeds, you know, you're happy for them.
Julianne and I get along fine. It's not hard sharing the spotlight at all because, I mean, I think it's good that she's up here and everything because it helps me a lot to see her and then how she's progressing, because then it sort of urges me to keep going.
Tracy Talavera, and here she is at the uneven bars.
You know, Jack, of all the competitions, you can really see them concentrating in this particular competition. Tracy starts out with a clear hip, right to a handstand, half turn, release, catch the high bar. So far moving very well. She has many innovative moves. Hit her feet just slightly on the bar, not too big a deduction. Clear hip to a handstand, toe on, full twist off. A little short on the landing, but not bad. Good routine.
Tracy Talavera with a strong performance on the uneven bars. Waiting now for the score. And here it is, a 9.80 for Tracy Talavera. And she seems happy herself with that performance. And now for the Russians, Olga Bicherova. She's listed as being 15 years of age, from Moscow. She's 4 feet 6 inches tall, weighs 66 pounds, and has a face that ought to be on the ceiling of a church. She is the current all-around world champion.
Her form is impeccable, just like her teammates. And like the United States, the Russians cannot sit back and take it easy, even if they are a world champion. They have to compete hard, and she'll do that right here. This opening move. Somi right to the high bar, beautifully done. Stalter, half twist. You should go right to the handstand, a little bit of separation in the legs there. Straddle back over the low bar. Moving well. Her hip handstand, giant swing. Looks like she just kind of playing around on the bar a little bit there. Front with a half twist. Coleman each dismount.
Olga Bicherova, all 4 feet 6 inches of her, 66 pounds on the uneven bar. Considering her weight and height, it's remarkable. One of the judges this afternoon is Ludmila Teresheva, a 3-time Olympian. Now let's take a look at Olga's dismount.
Olga has a good dismount here, but her legs separate just slightly as she goes up here in the air. Feet shoot out, they separate, but a good dismount.
A 9.60, and the world champion is finding the competition rather difficult this afternoon. And now for the United States, this is Julianne McNamara, one of our leading women gymnasts. She's 16 years of age, but a veteran in international competition.
She begins with a mount that she invented. It's called a McNamara mount. It's a mixed grip, shoots right to a handstand, takes an incredible amount of strength. Right here. Right to the handstand. Beautiful. What amplitude. Giant swing, barely any arch in her back. Eagle grip. Swing right over the low bar. What control. Every time I see her, I'm so amazed at how good she is. Whoops, little break there. Slight pause. Great strength, however. She'll get credit for extra risk and originality. Beautifully done.
Julianne McNamara, a very strong performance here on the uneven bars. Let's take a look in slow motion.
Julianne has great upper body strength, but she does this giant right into the dismount. You'll see she'll pull down, hips drop to the floor, half twist in the air, way above that top bar.
A 9.9 for Julianne McNamara, and that helps the cause considerably. After the uneven bars competition, the USA takes over the lead, 97.1 to 96.9. Shkoda took the all-around lead in the women's competition with this 9.85 performance on the balance beam. She helped the women retake a slight lead over the USA, and the score going into the floor exercise is the USSR 145.6, the USA 145.3. And here she is, the all-around leader, Valentina Shkoda.
And Valentina is a tough little competitor. She starts out immediately with her first tumbling run, which is a double pike, gets lots of speed here. Very nicely done. Perfect position in the air. And she shows a lot of personality here. Real crowd pleaser. You know, even when she's not in competition or on the apparatus, she shows personality. Very talkative to her teammates. Get ready for her second tumbling run now. It's a layout with a half twist, and she'll go right into a double twist. There it is. Once again, very well done. Great command out there. One great thing about the Soviet team is they always manage to get that audience on their side. Great choreography. She hasn't stopped moving. Lots of energy. She'll need lots of endurance for her last tumbling run. This is double twist. Moving so well right now. Let's see if she can hit this ending. Perfect. Good routine. Look at the glitter on the eyes, too.
Yeah, she's glittering. Valentina Shkoda, 14 years of age, 4 feet 6 inches. Look at this, a standing ovation for her. All 62 pounds of her. She's the lightest gymnast on the floor. She's won a national junior championship in the all-around, but to win one in international competition would be quite an achievement for this youngster. 9.85, and they're going to have to catch her. Valentina Shkoda of the Soviet Union. And now for the United States, the veteran Kathy Johnson, 21 years of age. She has been a member of the national team every year since 1976.
Very dramatic opening. Starts with a double pike. Kathy rarely breaks in form.
A little Russian music, too.
That's from when she performed in the World Championships. Kathy changes her routine quite often. She enjoys the change, keeps everything interesting. 1.5 twists to a full. She was out slightly. I don't know if the judges caught that or not. Kathy spends a great deal of time on her ballet practice. Every day before she goes on the apparatus, she spends some time just on the ballet bar, warming up. I think a lot of our gymnasts in this country could take notice as to how determined Kathy has been to work on her dance and do the same. Spends a lot of time there. It's always nice to have the audience on your side, too. Aerial cartwheel. Lots of endurance needed for this last tumbling run. Round off flip-flop. Double twist. Very nicely done. You can see a slight smile on Kathy's face. She's done a nice exercise.
Another standing ovation. Kathy Johnson, the lady from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Let's take a look in slow motion and see if she did step out of bounds, Kathy.
Well, you know, Jack, usually the judge lifts her hand in the air to tell the other judges if she stepped out, and there was no sign like that, so maybe they didn't even notice. Looked like she was just on the line there.
Apparently not, because she got a 9.9, a marvelous score for Kathy Johnson. Now for the United States, Tracy Talavera coming into this final event, second in the all-around. She needs a 9.95 to go ahead.
And if Tracy can get by this first tumbling run and do it well, she has a good chance to do that. She starts out with a double pike. Critical move for Tracy. She's had trouble with it in the past, but has nailed it in the very last competition she was in. So let's see if she can do it here. Round off flip-flop. Double pike. Whoops. Big break there. 5/10 of a point. It's a hard move for Tracy. She either holds onto it too long or not long enough. Her timing needs to be improved. Front flip, round off flip-flop, full twist. That's got to be very discouraging for Tracy. She's missed that in past competition, and I'm sure she'd like to get as much experience with it, though, before the Olympics. Little change of pace now. Her last tumbling run. Round off flip-flop, double twist. Too bad she had that break, but the rest of the team was good.
Tracy Talavera, obviously disappointed with her floor exercise. Let's take a look in slow motion at the problem she had, Kathy.
After Tracy's back handspring, you'll see that she has a lot of lean in her back. Right here, and she goes way back, and it causes a lot of speed, and she over-rotates. If she went a little higher, she wouldn't have had that problem.
A fine performance, except for that one mistake, and it probably will cost her, yes, a 9.25, and that's not going to help the United States team score, but we still have a very close competition. Back with the final performances in a moment. In Olga Bicherova, she is third in the all-around, coming into the floor exercises.
She could really do it on this event. She begins with a full-in double back. One of the most difficult moves in the competition. Soviet gymnasts are very expressive. Each move counts. Okay, here goes. Full in double back. Right to her knees. There's going to be a deduction for that, at least 2 or 3 tenths. doing extra risk and originality. The routine 1.5 twist to a full twist, a little bit low on both those moves. Dive to a handstand. You can see they take a little rest for each tumbling run. It gives them just enough momentum now. And getting ready for a last tumbling run, a little bit too long here in this pause. It's going to be a double back, round off flip-flop. Almost held onto those knees too long.
Olga Bicherova, the current all-around world champion, but finding the going rather difficult here this afternoon. Waiting for her score. She seems to know that she hasn't done too well. No, 9.25 for Olga Bicherova. And for the United States, Julianne McNamara. She doesn't figure in the all-around competition, but if she can score a 9.6, the United States women will win this meet.
This is a good event for Julianne. She opens with a double pike. She is usually very secure on this event. See if she can hit that double pike. Little break there. Little stumble. Okay. Round off flip-flop. Double pike. Oops. Big step back. Taking cluster points for stepping out. I think there's so much energy being poured out by these gymnasts. They're over-rotating most of their difficult moves, especially the double pike. Tremendous effort by the Americans today. Front pike, front flip, round off flip-flop, double back, right to her hands. Deduction there. I think the gymnasts have given so much on the other three events. They're a little bit tired here. Branny into a handstand. 4 turns there. See if she can pull this last tumbling run. Round off flip-flop, double twist, right on.
She needed a 9.6 to put the United States women's team in front. She had a few breaks in that exercise, and she looks a little disconsolate here, doesn't she? As if she knew she didn't make it. She did not make it. 9.45. And there is Valentina Shkoda, the winner of the all-around competition, leading her Russian teammates to a narrow victory in the women's competition over the United States, 193.7 to 193.6. Earlier, however, the United States men's team upset the Russian men's team by 0.8 of a point. Now for Kathy Rigby and Gordon Maddox, this is Jack Whitaker saying so long from Gainesville, Florida. Today's coverage of the USA versus the world in Olympic sports was produced by Ken Wolf, directed by Larry Cam, technical director Bill Morris, associate director Vince D'Addario. Stay tuned next for ABC's Wide World of Sports, where you'll see the Harlem Globetrotters visit Walt Disney World, plus the men's world record high dive challenge. Travel arrangements made through and a promotional fee paid by United Airlines. United flies more people to Hawaii than any other airline.